I've been skilling up all my professions, grinding the auction house. I've been doing old BOE transmog farms, and now I can proudly say I bought a dinosaur mount using my hard-earned euros.
Yeah, so of course I bought the mount too.
Yeah, well, I guess for you it was you were hyped from the second it was announced.
Yeah, I mean such great value, I guess. 78 euros or $90. I mean it's you get I mean just like if you compare it to what it costs to get the BFA mount, right? It's pretty cheap. And this one is way better as well with the mailbox.
Yeah, I'm very surprised that people were so upset by it being available in the shop because I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure you could still trade in the WoW token for Battle.net balance in BFA. So it just seems to me like this is the exact same situation, just half the cost of the mount, and it actually affecting other things positively, like the WoW token and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really see. And I know a lot of people like have like a gut reaction, being like, fuck Blizzard. They're they're putting this 78 euro, $90 mount in the store, stuff like that. And then that's the sort of the extent of how that train of thought goes, I guess. Um, to be fair though, to those people and to everyone who was mad about it, was the timing was kind of sus, right? They released a really buggy patch, and then one day later they announced this.
Yeah.
So that timing maybe wasn't great, but just in general, I think I know some people just hate, like, when they put mounts or whatever in the store, but it's just such a smart thing to do because it doesn't really ruin anyone's game, except I guess like if you're a mount collector who doesn't want to spend any money on the game or something, right? And you
Or
really want
gold.
every mount or gold if you don't want to spend anything on the game, right? Um, but other than that, it's just so good because it pumps money into Blizzard, right? Which means that, for example, they've never increased the cost of the subscription, right? It's been the same for 20 years, I think.
Yeah, it's the only thing that survives inflation.
Yeah, exactly. It's the only true invariant to inflation. And I mean, in addition to that, right? Like, there's even if we have like fewer subscribers or whatever. Now, I guess the numbers look pretty good actually. But still, I mean, these things can keep the game alive. So and it can obviously fund more different random things. I don't think that it's just like, oh yeah, they do this and now Bobby Kotick, who I guess isn't even there anymore. I guess Microsoft now is the new bad guy, I guess. Microsoft just pockets all the money and Blizzard doesn't see it. I don't think it works like that. So
I think I think maybe people don't think about that gold has an actual value because I think it's quite easy to just see it and think that 2.5 million golds is free and 78 euros is not. But like the first thing I did was look at how much is this worth in tokens, and then I have the option: do I want to spend money or gold? And I didn't decide instantly like you, but I mean, gold actually has a currency value to some extent, right?
yeah, I don't remember what was the gold value like. I think I think it was a little bit more expensive in the EU. I think it was like 1.7 million in EU and 1.2 million in NA or something, if I remember correctly.
I think maybe for like the first hour, but the token has gone up, so.
Yeah, but I think it plummeted back down pretty fast after, actually.
But the
Um,
token is 333 now, and you need 6 tokens, so it's exactly 2 million gold.
yeah, I
As
guess
of right now.
the weird thing, I guess, is that depends which way you're looking at it, right? If you're looking at it from the perspective of buying the gold or buying the tokens, if that makes sense, I guess. Since the
Yeah,
trading
I'm
rate is
looking at
different.
the legal way of buying the tokens.
Yeah.
Then you have to spend the 2 million gold. Which doesn't sound too bad considering the old one cost 5. But
Yeah, but what I
all in all,
was
I'm quite happy.
yeah, but what I meant was that, or what I was thinking was that they could have. I guess what I wanted to get at was like, Do you think the reaction would have been different if they just said, "Here's this mount. It costs 1.5 million gold"?
Then I think, I don't know.
Because it's almost the same thing, right? Because then you would buy the same number of you would buy 4 tokens, whatever, 5 or whatever the number is, right? Depending on the price.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah, I
could
think
buy them.
people would be a lot happier.
Yeah, I think so too. And
A lot happier.
so the question is just, do you like? I think this obviously gave a little bit more money to Blizzard, but maybe that would have been a smarter way to do it. To just say like during this anniversary event, you can buy this mount at 1.5, and they could probably even have made it more expensive. They could have probably made it 2 million or whatever, right? Just to offset this weird thing.
I get what you mean, but I do not think it would be worth it, because I think they did it in a very clever way where, like, an auction house mount hasn't been available for quite some time. As far as I'm aware, it goes for gold cap on the black market auction house when it's listed. And they achieved two things with this. Obviously, people buy the mount for real money, like we did.
Yeah.
And a lot of people buy the mount that had never bought a store mount. Like, I don't care about the mount. I just want the practicalities of the mount. I want the auction house and the mailbox. So there must have been a lot of first-time customers. And with it being, with you being able to buy it for money, it drove up the token price, which I don't know economy, but I think that's a good thing. Because then a lot more people like you will buy more tokens to get gold. And I feel like even if you just drive up the token value by 30%, it must have really good long-term effects. The only people punished are people only spending gold to buy subscription, right? Which from Blizzard's perspective is probably a good thing to punish because they want more money, right?
Yeah, but I don't think the token will long term be up from this. But because I think that like the value, I saw a graph, like it went super high and then it came almost all the way back down. Or maybe not all the way, but like it dropped pretty quickly, and I think it's going to even out back to its normal value again.
Okay.
But
Yeah, fair enough.
but you know, short term, yeah, like because what I did, like immediately when I saw this, or like when I guess I think it was like when I saw it in bed, like when I was gonna go sleep. But the day after, I went up in the morning before work, and I bought the mount. Saw the token was like 450k or something. Bought
Yeah.
the token, got that sold as well, and that was basically like 2x the value almost, or 1.67x the value of the token, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty nice.
All in all, I think it's better than a lot of the flame, and I don't really like the. I get that the timing feels bad, but I mean obviously the tuning team and all the issues related to that isn't really a conflicting resource with whoever market mount design people are doing this. I wouldn't think it wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, it definitely doesn't make any sense from
This has
that
been
perspective.
planned,
But
right?
yeah. But I think it's more that and I don't think it really had to do with the tuning so much. I think there was a lot of bugs in the patch, and I think we'll get back to that when we talk about Queen Answeract. There have been some really awkward bugs, but there were just a lot of bugs in general. And I think that that's what people didn't like, where it just felt kind of tone deaf. But of course, yeah, this has been planned for a long time, probably, right? They probably planned this for like months.
Yeah,
But it is
and
funny.
it's kind of obvious hindsight. It is obvious hindsight, but them adding the mailbox to it, I think, is the ultimate gamer or bad guy move, because now you're like you would want this mount over the old one, right? They
Yeah, this one
basically
is way
made
better.
the old one worse, which that part I feel like is a bit bad. They should probably add a mailbox to it and remove the vendor or whatever is in its place, you know?
Yeah, I saw people asking on Twitter, like, if you have the old mount, couldn't you, Blizzard couldn't, like, they let those people, like, you know, add whatever to it, you know?
Yeah, that part I feel like that's the only greedy part. That's the only tone deaf thing in my book, at least, because that must feel bad. You like 5 million golds to get that mount in BFA was not free. Like people grinded hard to get that, and now it's not obsolete, but it is worse than the new mount.
Yeah. But again, it is a long time ago now also, right? It's like 6-7 years, whatever year, I don't know, a lot of years ago now.
Yeah.
So I mean, they had fun
Yeah,
with it for a long time as well. But yeah,
they,
for sure. I would definitely be a little bit. I wouldn't be super happy about it if I had the old mount for sure. But yeah, I wanted to mention one funny thing also. Like about this, just like sort of give the scale, I think, of how important or like how crucial these like store things and like microtransactions really have become. You know, Pirate Software, right? Thor.
yeah.
So he obviously used to work at Blizzard, right? And I saw like I think he said it on his stream. I think there's a short on his channel. You can watch it, whatever. But he said that when they released the first like Sparkle Pony mount in the store, like I think the first store mount they ever released, like at $20 or whatever, that made more money than all of StarCraft 2.
I think it was StarCraft Wings of Liberty or some bullshit expansion no one played.
Okay, but
Still, but yeah.
okay, right. Yeah, I've never played StarCraft, but that makes sense. So I think, yeah, it made more money than an entire game, right? Like, or an expansion of a game, whatever, right? Which that puts into perspective, I guess, like how fucking much these things matter, like in terms of the monetary, prospects of the game or whatever you want to call it. So these things pay for a lot, probably, and
probably pays for the sub not going up with the years.
yeah, and yeah, I don't know. It has to pay for something because from what I've heard, it doesn't really pay for Blizzard's salaries. People always say that Blizzard have really shitty salaries, so probably something else. But yeah, I have one more thing I wanted to mention or ask about on the mount front.
Okay.
And I saw some different people asking about things. So I guess what I want to ask you is, next time there's a new mount coming out, what do you want to see on that mount? What does that mount have on its back, Is there anything that doesn't exist on a mount that you wish was on a mount?
Well, Barber would be great. I guess in modern WoW, what's it even called? Like the work order auction house. That's the only two things I can think of.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called, but yeah, the work order thing.
Maybe not a mount, but maybe there could be some sort of toy that's super expensive where it acts as all like the profession hubs. So like you can place it down and then you can do your, like it's an alchemy bench and leatherworking bench, whatever they're called.
Yeah.
But for fun, I think Barber would be good. If they want to milk some more cash, they just release another dinosaur with the work order auction house, and they need to find something else a bit clever with like a warband bank on it as well.
Yeah, but I mean, you have the war bank toy, but I guess if people use it often, I don't know. Yeah.
What do you have?
I don't know. I just thought it was funny because I saw like people drawing like the dinosaur and clipping in like a summon stone on the like with Photoshop, and it looks super
sick,
scuffed.
actually.
Yeah, and then I saw like people tweeting and like I saw like I think Max. I don't know if he was like the original tweeter or if he just retweeted someone, but he just said, "I would pay so much fucking money for this," and it was the dinosaur with the summon stone on its back, and it looks so fucking funny.
Yeah, imagine they release a summon stone. Like there's so many toys that they can do for like 10, 20 euros that would just everyone would buy,
Yeah.
Like imagine if you could pay 20 euros to get a summon stone toy. Like you would buy it. You would also wake up at 6 and buy it.
Yeah, and then buy a token as well, Ride the wave.
It's gonna be a slippery slope, but I think quality of life is a good way to go. Maybe not summoning stone, but I'd like it.
Yeah, like it's like I never buy things in the store. Like the only things I've bought, I think, are I bought this and I bought that like Transmorpher beacon toy.
Yeah.
And then of course you get a lot of things from the store because I have like 6-month subscription or whatever, and then you get a lot of them for free. And then I guess technically I have bought a few mounts from the store actually, but not for me. But like my fiance, she was like, "Oh yeah, this mount is nice," whatever. And then I have to buy. I have to, but you know how it is. So then I've bought them, but yeah, I've never like bought really anything for myself from the store that isn't actually useful in some sense.
Yeah, I think I've done a Transmorpher beacon as well. Is there Recalibrate? Is that a store thing?
I don't remember. I'm not sure. I don't think so. Maybe.
That really should have been a
Yeah. Maybe it was a
store thing.
store. Oh no, I think it was on the auction house. I don't know. Not sure.
Cool.
It
So
would
it
be
says,
interesting.
sorry.
Yeah, I was just say it would be interesting if they put something in the store that was BOE. So like you could buy it from the store and you could also buy it on the auction house. That would kind of that would
But that's
kind
just a weird token, I guess.
yeah, but like that's a more direct way of saying like, well, we'll let you buy it in the game as well. Like what would have happened if this thing was BOE when you bought it now? Would it just go for I guess it would just go for like equivalent gold value ish, right?
Yeah, I think since the token is in the game, I don't think it would work. But I don't know how money works. But it seems to me like if you can buy gold for money, there's not really a purpose for any other BOEs.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you just skip the weird exchange rate of the token being more expensive in one direction or whatever. But yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
we're not like a wow economy podcast, so we don't have to
Yeah,
dig
let's move
too.
on.
Let's move on. Yeah, I think we've exhausted what we can say about this. But yeah, yeah. So in other weird news, before we get into sort of the meat of the podcast with like raid progress, class tuning, M plus changes, whatever has been coming out. I wanted to mention this like weird Netflix documentary that came out this week. Or well, it didn't come out this week, I guess, but technically, I think it released in January this year. It was like screened on the Sundance Film Festival, but it came to Netflix this weekend on Friday or something, and it's this like it's called the what was it called? It's called The Remarkable Life of Ibelin. And it's a story that at least I remember. I don't know. Did you remember this from
No.
like 10 years ago? No, I remember it actually because like it's to like say it really short. Like it's like a story of a Norwegian guy who had like some muscular disease that made him that he basically couldn't move, and then he died at like 25, and then his family and parents or whatever thought he never had any friends, and then after he died, like a lot of people from his guild reached out, or people he met in the game and stuff, and you know they reached out, and a lot of people attended his funeral, and they were like carrying his it's not called chest. What is it called? The casket or wait? What are
Yeah.
they?
Oh, yeah, probably casket. I don't know.
Casket? Oh, whatever. But yeah, like so it's like kind of
Are
a
you
feel.
spoiling the entire movie now?
No, I don't think so. I don't know. I haven't seen the movie, so I
Oh,
just remember it from 10 years ago when this was like in the newspapers. But basically, that's like the story of it or whatever. So it's like a kind of a feel good story, and they've done a bunch of stuff. Um, but I remember it because like my mom's always been kind of like negative or whatever. Like she doesn't really like that I play a lot of World of Warcraft or computer games or whatever. She's like, you should do something in real life. But then I just remember the way I heard about it was that my stepdad told me like, yeah, my mom actually read this article and she was like, touched by the article and whatever, and she got like at least some more, I think, appreciation for that now. So I'm actually I'm gonna meet her on Friday. I'm actually gonna tell her about this documentary, so they have to see it as well.
a
But
family watch party.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, actually, maybe we should have that on Friday. But yeah, so I think even though like it's a bit maybe weird, it's not like directly about World of Warcraft, but I think like it actually has a lot of content inside of it, which is like animated World of Warcraft, like with voiceover and stuff and cool. So it's a lot of like World of Warcraft stuff. So I think like great for everyone to support World of Warcraft here and actually just go in and watch this. Hopefully, we get more World of Warcraft content in mainstream media.
Yeah, whatever happened to the Warcraft movie? Wasn't there supposed to be a sequel? Like the actual World of Warcraft movie?
I don't know if there was I think there was talks of it. I don't think they. I mean, I guess they like it didn't do as well as they wanted. Maybe I don't know actually. But I think I heard like a lot of complaints. People are saying like the movie was set in a time that most people hadn't played in the game or whatever, right? Or hadn't experienced, so it was kind of weird for people. Maybe it would have been better to start with I don't know, the story of Arthas or something. I don't fucking know. Just something more that people knew about.
Yeah.
So maybe that would have made, because this was like, the birth of Thrall and stuff, like, right? It was like weird, and the Karasan and all this shit. But yeah, I mean, I think what they should have done though, like they should have just teamed up with Netflix or HBO and just made like miniseries, right? Like 8 episodes, 1 hour or something. And then each. And if it get picked up and it became good, right, they would make like one season with just one story arc of World of Warcraft, because there's a huge story, right?
I mean, I guess the easiest cash grab would just be to like follow Illidan or something, right? Like that would lead into Lich King, and then at some point they'd have problems. But
yeah, but like there's so many like different, like each season, if it became a big thing and they had like seasons, each they don't have to, they can exist within the same universe without necessarily like following each other or whatever, right? So if you imagine
like a True Detective sort of
or
season.
The Wire or whatever, like there's a bunch of things like that, right? Or recently Monsters or Monster on Netflix, same thing. It's just like completely different things. It's just the same theme pretty much. So yeah, I think that could definitely happen. But now we're very far off topic, I guess, because now we're just hoping.
Did you hear the most outrageous news this week in WoW?
I don't know. Please enlighten me.
Somehow, for some reason no one understands, Warrior got buffed.
What? No way,
It
dude.
seems. I was actually so sad when I saw this, because there were so many good memes about Warriors, nerf Warriors. Like Now's been on fire on Twitter. Bunch of other people have been, as I have, rooting for more Warrior nerfs. And for some reason they just buffed them.
Yeah,
Do you have any insight into this?
Yeah, I mean there was a lot of memeing going on, but yeah, it was. I think it was. I don't know, deserved. Maybe it's the wrong word, but I think it was a correct play to buff them now. I think. I mean, there were just too many nerfs for no real reason. Warriors were never really OP. We're very good at this specific thing on Queen, but yeah. We're gonna end up seeing quite big nerfs, quite big buffs now. I guess we can sort of segue into that, I guess, because WoW had similarly to last week, they released this like, I guess like this is
Winners
the tuning.
Yeah,
like this is like all the different things. And yeah, Warrior is actually one of the bigger buffs, I guess. So depending
literally
on what
the biggest.
Sorry.
Literally the biggest on arms.
Blood DK Sandlane, I think, bigger.
Oh,
but yeah, other than that, yeah. Yeah, so yeah, it's a bit weird. Like arms actually, yeah, arms gets a pretty big buff, which is good, because arms was kind of down bad because they got all those stray nerfs from Fury being too OP apparently. But yeah, now they pretty much buffed everything. They're like buffing Arms Colossus, Arms Slayer, Fury Mountain Thane, Fury Slayer, all of them between like 6 and 9%. So that's good. Mostly giving all of them really both single target and AoE, but specifically not like burst AoE. So more like sustained AoE damage, which I think is good. And I mean, that's nice. Like, it's less likely that you're going to rip aggro and die. And it also alleviates this issue where Warrior was the best, and I think still is one of, if not the best at, if you only have 5 seconds to do damage, then they're the best,
Yeah.
Which extremely niche, but, if that is a thing,
It's kind of useful in raid, not more often than not in terms of bosses, but in tiers. Like, there's usually ads that just needs to die, and that will. I don't think it is as broken as we discussed. Like, it looks more broken than it is, but it is really good to just put 1 or 2 specs on it, and everyone else can just not bother,
I mean,
like, they're not happy, but it's effective.
If you couldn't break the roots in phase 1 of Queen on Mythic, if you could not break them without killing them, then I think Warrior would have been really, really good, right? That would have been really OP. But I think like the way it works now, where you never DPS them at all, and it's only the ads in the last phase, realistically. I guess the small spiders in the intermission, but or phase 2. I mean, it's not.
You pretty much do one set of breaks though in P1. We do on the third, but I think it's quite common that you can't break every set. So we have like 4 or something that we break every P1.
Okay, yeah, we don't do that. We only break one person or whatever if that person, like if someone's fucked up or whatever, right?
Oh, okay.
But like we have every single break pre-immuned or whatever you want to call it, or like pre-assigned to be immuned. So we don't necessarily kill anything, but sometimes people randomly screw up or whatever, and then because also different people have different ways of breaking it. Like for warriors, very easy. I just press reflect every time. But some people have a little bit more involved way of having to get all of them. So, but yeah, I mean, if
Are there any other notable buffs or
uh,
nerfs?
yeah, I was gonna say it's definitely way less than last week. I mean, there's some smaller ones. I mean, they nerfed BM Hunter a bit, buff balance a bit. Like it's nothing major, right?
I think Locke might be. Sorry, I think Destro might be the most notable one.
Is Destro even? Is Destro good?
I think Arlocks play Destro. I've seen all the 3 specs out of Warlock this tier, and I think they've all been equally middle of the pack or like meh. But you always play Arlock, right?
Yeah, you also have the one. So yeah, that's pretty good then. It's like 8.6.
So I think that's pretty. I think that's good, but neither of us really know Lock. The nerves, I guess, Elemental really needed to be nerfed because they were popping off. Enhancement nerf seems suitable. BM, HPAL, no clue. Most are neutral. The Mistweaver buff is good. Mistweaver's gotten a lot of attention, like a pseudo, not a rework, but they got a lot of attention this patch, so a week ago. And this just seems to make them even better. But they won't be broken as far as I can tell.
Okay. So one thing maybe to note there with Elemental, because you're saying obviously they're being nerfed here, but yeah, you saw that they changed they removed some of the nerfs to Elemental. I'm not sure is that. Wait, that is up. Is that updated in? Yeah, it
There
is
is
up.
an asterisk here that they might be even more nerfed. Or is that a sentence bug? I'm not sure.
Well, that's not what. That's a separate thing, but there was like a reversion of 2 things.
Oh, okay.
So they reverted the nerf to. Let's see. Echo Chamber now increases the damage of elemental overloads by 20%, was 40%. That is being reverted, so it's still 40%. And then Ascendance now increases the damage of elemental overloads by 100%, while active was 150, and that is also reverted, so still 150. So those 2 changes were reverted. But now looking at the WoW compiled post, it looks like this is updated for the hotfixes.
Okay.
So I guess it's still gonna be the 11% or 9% or whatever. Which I mean, I think Elemental were very good. But yeah, let's just hope that they don't get too dumpstered from this, I guess.
Have you played any keys with? Have you played any keys this week with the new changes?
Yes, I have.
What's been good? What's been broken?
Elemental. Everyone wants Elemental.
Okay.
It looks like. Is my sense. I still feel that it's not. I feel that it doesn't matter. Like, of course it matters, but I've done at this point, I think, almost all the 13 keys in time. And I think still at the 13 level, the keys feel very, very easy. I think if you just run the key in like without wiping, you will time every 13. If your group is, reasonably good. I haven't really bothered too much about like comps and stuff for that. And I've just played random pugs. And I did step into. I tried a 14 as well, but I think we wiped and whatever. But like it felt similarly not that hard. So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's because I haven't gotten to the super high keys yet, but I feel like people are already, as usual, way overplaying the meta. But like this week, there was a clear shift, at least, that like everyone's saying like, oh, let's get elemental, let's get elemental, let's get elemental. Whereas that was obviously never the case before. So that was the only thing I noticed was that people specifically really, really wanted elemental this week.
Do you feel like the meta is starting to settle in any sense? I get that there's been a lot of hype this week for elemental, but from my understanding, there's more prot and rets than I've understood, and I've heard people talk about disc, which was surprising to me.
That's not a thing. Or well, depends what you're looking at. But if you're looking at high keys, so in high keys, it's only Resto Shaman pretty much. Or not only, but like if we look at not the week we're in now, I guess we just look at the last week because that's locked in. This week hasn't really finished up yet, so it's a little bit behind on the stats. But in the top 2,000 runs last week, there were 82% Resto Shaman. So
but in the top ranked and plus healers, the literal rank 1 healer is disc, and in the top 6, 3 are shamans, 3 are priests.
yeah, I think there are some people playing different things, but the vast majority or the bulk of people play only Resto Shaman, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think there might be like a team or something that playing other stuff, you know. But it looks like most of the keys are from people who are playing Resto Shaman, and then it's the sort of the same where Prot Warrior has roughly half the representation, and then the other tanks are a bit split. But that's definitely more even, and definitely this week Prot Paladin came forward a lot after the changes that they got.
Okay.
But on the DPS side, it's still good. I think the big difference obviously is the Elemental massively shot up this week. So at least so far, it went from 6% last week to 20% this week, which is a pretty big difference. But otherwise, it's like Frost Decay has been the most dominant, and then like Asa Rogue, Augmentation, and Ret Paladin, and then, you know, a mix of other things. So I think the meta is pretty good. It's not the best meta, but, you know, given what we've had for the past 3 seasons, this feels amazing.
It seems like Shaman is in a good state. Looking at this, there's not a high percentage of enhancements, but looking at the top keys, there's a lot of enhancements.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, they're actually really, all Shaman specs are really good. I played a lot of double Shaman this week because obviously pretty much all the keys that you play are with Resto, and then yeah, you would have either elemental or enhancements mostly. So yeah, a lot of double Shaman. So definitely the most represented class.
but this is the most rainbowy DPS ladder I've seen when looking at the top 20 in a while.
Yeah, no, the meta is good. I think honestly the only role that I think needs maybe a little bit shake up is Resto Shaman or the healers. Otherwise, I think it's pretty okay. I mean, obviously, Prot Warrior is a bit dominant, but like 50% representation, given what we've seen like the past 3 seasons, I think we shouldn't be too, you know, worried about that, because like we still have like, you know, other classes on, you know, higher percent, and especially now when Prot Paladin actually came up this week as well, evening out with Prot Warrior. So yeah, I think
it's really interesting to see Disc Priests gaining some traction and a lot of traction in the higher end. I guess it's because for some reason you want the Shaman. I guess all the specs are good, and Poison Cleansing seems to be good, and they're tanky. But Priest, and this is coming from a long-term Priest main, but Priest has a really good toolkit for keys nowadays. Like just stamina buff, PI, and Mass Dispel gets you quite far now.
Yeah.
Mind Soothe has also been really good lately, or since Dragonflight.
Yeah, there isn't that much mind soothing going on now. I would say. I think actually that's actually one really good thing I think this season is that, at least in the keys that I've played, you don't feel that you're like, oh, we need a rogue here, oh, we need a priest here. Like, you can usually solve most of those type of things with either, you know, Shroud or Mind Soothe or a CC, or, you know, there's a lot of different things you can use in most places now, which I think is pretty good balance for that.
Yeah, that's good.
So yeah, that's actually nice.
Yeah, everything looks quite good besides the healer representation.
Yeah.
I do think that I know I talked about this when I played Mistweaver last, even before it was meta, but I feel like Mistweaver surprisingly still is the most underplayed healer. Like, to me, it's consistently the healer that's really good but not picked as much as I think it should be picked. And I'm guessing now with the changes to them, they should be really good for a really strong contender for 5-man content.
Yeah, I played
So maybe we'll see a rise.
actually a few keys with Mistweaver yesterday, and yeah, it felt really good. Didn't feel like he had much trouble with much of anything. I think the main reason why, which I guess is often the case, like the main reason I think that Mistweaver isn't more represented isn't so much to do with like Mistweaver not being good. It's more that it doesn't fit very well into the meta.
Yeah.
Because most comps, first of all, you don't need, but you pretty much need or want at least a shaman. And so if you don't have it on the healer, you definitely want it from a DPS. So it's easier if you just have it on the healer when you can. And also, obviously, if you take a Mistweaver, you end up with another melee. And as mentioned before, the most represented spec is Frost Decay, and then it's like Azarog and Og. And it's kind of awkward to play that with Mistweaver, right? Because then the most range thing you have is like an Og Evoker, which is kind of low range. Or even in the worst case, right, where you have like, Ret Paladin, Asa Rogue, and Frost Decay or something, right? Because then you're 5 melee. So I think mostly it's just a awkward like compositional restriction that doesn't so much have to do with Mistweaver's ability to do the content, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, the few keys I played with it the other day, yeah, they felt solid for sure.
I just feel like I am very biased, but Mistweaver is fun in one specific way where your healing scales the more ads you pull. And we actually saw this a bit when they were meta for a season. And you finally, like, it's safer to pull mobs onto boss and stuff like that, because you can just spin to win.
Yeah.
And it can be utilized very well, I feel like, where you're actively incentivized to pull bigger to heal more,
Yeah.
I guess there's probably some minor interactions with other healer specs, but Mistweaver clearly an outlier there where you just want to go as big as you can in terms of amount of mobs. Even if it's small, useless mobs,
Yeah. Yeah, I think it started being a little bit like I see, or well, I see I'm the tank usually now, but you do some bigger pulls now, but yeah, it's definitely like in general just smaller pulls than it's been, I think, previous seasons. It's just it's harder with like the you can't really just stun everything or whatever anymore. So I guess Mistweaver doesn't get as much out of that, I guess, as they could have if in a previous season, which is maybe
What's been the reason for that? Because everyone's been talking about that since the PTR and beta. Like, you can't pull as big. Every pack is small now. Why is that?
So there's a few reasons for it. First of all, if you don't play a protection warrior, your tank will die.
Okay.
If you do play protection warrior, it's fine. But the main thing I think is that they made this change, if you remember, with stops no longer reset or stops no longer trigger the cooldown of abilities.
They did revert that or made more mobs work like that again.
Oh yeah, okay. If you didn't know, yeah. So all mobs, like the default now is that any cast will only go on cooldown if it finishes casting or if it is kicked. So
Yeah, that's perfect.
yeah. So if you stun shit, it will just recast insta. Even if you stun it 10 times, whatever, it will always recast again. And obviously, this means that the meta which we had before, where you just pull huge and you chain CC, it doesn't work anymore. Unless you have a lot of CC, right? Because you can just do it for a really, really, really long time. And so
Well, that's a great change in general, right? Like that the idea of not being able to chain stop mobs in N+ must be like appreciated, no?
Well, so I think the community sentiment is that people hate it. Like people fucking hate
Oh,
it.
really?
Yeah, people hate it so much. I personally, I'm a little bit more torn on it. Uh, Honestly, for me, like this was one of the things that I said before. Like I had a post on competitive WoW Reddit called like the Mythic Plus Manifesto or whatever. And one of the things that I brought up that I think because we saw like for all of Dragonflight and I think a lot of Shadowlands as well, we saw a shift towards almost every season. The meta was just a ranged comp. And one of the reasons for that was the very, very reduced use of kicks. Like there was very little use in having kicks on shorter cooldown because you would just stop everything anyway with AoE stops. And that kind of removed the quote unquote advantage that melee had by having the shorter kick. So in that sense, I feel like it's good, and in some way it's worked because the melee comp has come forward now. People actually play melee cleave now, so that part worked out. But yeah, there are some like points of frustration to the system. I think that people don't like. Like I don't think I think the system in general is pretty fair. I think it's fine, but there are like two things that I think are really annoying. And the first thing is just like a thing where like imagine you're trying to kick something, but then someone stunned it right as you were gonna kick it. And so then you kick into nothing, into air, and then it recasts, and you can't kick it, So that becomes really awkward. And I have heard people have way like crazy big takes of how to solve it. People can say like, oh yeah, like if you didn't kick something, then it doesn't go on cooldown, or if the mob was casting something within half a second of you kicking, it doesn't go on cool. Like these crazy weird things that I think would just be too complicated and just too weird, like to have in the game. So yeah, so that's one thing. And then I think the other thing that's made it kind of awkward is that they've put a lot of things or a lot of different mobs in the game that are just chain casting no matter what, if that makes sense. Like they will just spam like a bolt ability, like frost bolt or soul bolt or whatever, these like random single target nukes. And that I guess is seen as kind of awkward because you can't really stop those things now. You just have to like kick it and then it's locked a little bit and then kick it and then you miss a few or whatever, or delay it a little bit with stuns, and that just feels a little bit clunky, I guess. But yeah, I think I'm torn on it, but yeah, I think the community perception definitely is very negative towards this actually.
But how everything you're saying makes sense, but my gut reaction, is that it's just sug, less mobs, less fun, less AoE, less fun. Could be a part of it, no?
Yeah, I mean definitely. Though I think, as I said in the start, I think maybe if you play Prot Warrior, but I think in general you couldn't really, even if you could stop everything, I'm not sure you could really pull that much bigger in a lot of places because the tank would just get absolutely wrecked. But yeah, definitely I think a lot of people have that idea of big pulls, big blast. But it kind of gives a little bit different of a what do you call it? Like it gives a little bit of a different flavor, I guess now. I think, and I'm fine with them trying it. I think it would be interesting to see them, try something else next season, see how people feel about it. Like I don't really mind either of the systems, but I know that a lot of people aren't happy with this.
I don't know where the sweet spot is because when I pushed Lost in Dragonflight Season 3, I think you remember very well about how unhappy I was about how free the dungeons felt.
Yeah.
Just due to, from my perspective, because the tank, the Vengeance Demon Hunter, just did everything. Pretty much nothing else mattered. Like he could at some point say, does someone wanna stun? And you could help him out for a second, but I get that it's the upside of the Dragonflight sort of system is that it's very puggable. It's very free. sort of shift all the skill check to one person, which is very practical, but it's, to me at least, a lot less fun. But then I get the other side of it as well. If it's too difficult to stop mobs, I do remember in like Shadowlands, maybe we were worse at the game as well, but it's not super fun having to do the pull that just takes 4 different kicks and everyone has to not fuck it up. And it's not a difficult thing to do, it's just a thing that takes a lot of coordination, which makes the LFG life even worse, right?
Yeah, I think that's the thing, though. I don't know. I guess that's the thing that people don't. I don't know if this is the thing that people don't like, but that's the only thing that I feel is a little bit awkward. I feel like it definitely has become more useful, I think, with like Discord or whatever, right? Because now you actually need to coordinate a lot, like, who's gonna kick this and that.
Yeah, but like Shadowlands then, I guess.
Yeah.
Or do you feel like it's a higher check than Shadowlands?
Yeah, it's a higher check. I mean, in Shadowlands, you still had a lot of things you could stop, right? I think the thing is that for a long time, like, either you had this vengeance thing where one person could do it, or you could have like an auto marker, and the auto marker would you would just say like, yeah, I'm always kicking star or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or the slightly more practical thing that people have started using as well, or some people have used for a long time, which is this thing where you have your focus macro also puts a mark on the target.
Okay.
But it puts a mark, but it never overrides a mark, if that makes sense. So if you realize that your mark didn't go on the target, you have to pick something else, right? So you always have your same mark all the time. That's been pretty good. But the thing is, in this expansion, it doesn't really work because there's so many mobs now that require like everyone to kick it. There's like some packs where it's just like the one mob that you have to kick, which obviously sounds very easy. It's just one mob, you just want to kick it. But you need all the 5 people in the group to be in sync with which order they're kicking. And then you need to be in sync with maybe, oh yeah, who can stun this mob for the kick number 6 or whatever, or however long, to delay it to the next one or whatever. And these things are very hard to set up through an entire dungeon without having some form of, voice communication, right?
Yeah.
Which I'm not against. Like, I prefer to always have Discord for keys anyway, but,
Yeah, but this sounds a lot like Shadowlands to me, where you have to coordinate at least some specific pulls in most dungeons where you just can't wing it. Like, I remember you sit there and you discuss in chat, in text before you start the dungeon, like, okay, this mob, you and you kick that one, we kick this one, then we have a stop, and you do that for like the key points, and then you just send it,
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it's probably similar to what it's going to come down to here. Or
but I do like, in theory, that they make it sort of obvious how it works, because now that you mention it, I do remember in Shadowlands where there were a lot of inconsistencies. Like, some mobs you only wanted to stun because their cost went on cooldown, and some you had to kick. And having a variation there, at least when it's like 50-50 or something, it becomes very confusing. Like, it's an unnecessary skill check to just remember which mob does what, right?
Yeah.
And this should be a good situation to be in, because if they listen to whatever the community feedback is, and they, like, it's very, very, very adaptable, they could just make the packs more fun by only having 4 kicks that's needed, but maybe on 2 of the mobs, and then maybe they add in some pad ads for the Sug that does a cast at some point that you can, I don't know, stun. But that's an inconsistency.
Yeah,
I guess it is a bit tricky.
Yeah, but I think that yeah, I'll follow on the consistent thing a bit, because yeah, it is actually pretty good, because the way it works, to go a little bit more specifically into it, is that any normal interruptible cast will only be will only be sort of stopped casting by being kicked,
Yeah.
because it will only go on cooldown either once kicked or once the cast finished. But many casts don't have a cooldown, and then of course they will just cast right away again, regardless of what you do, unless the kick will lock them out. But then there's two other main cases. So there are casted abilities that cannot be interrupted, and those type of abilities, if they are stunnable or whatever, they will go on cooldown if stunned.
Yeah.
So basically
Yeah,
it
that makes
becomes,
sense.
so abilities that are, that you couldn't kick, then you're fine to do the other thing. And then there's finally one last thing, and I'm pretty sure it works like this for pretty much all cases I can remember, at least this isn't works this way, which is that sometimes there is a channel on a mob, and the way it seems to work is that if the actual channel part has started, then the ability is always on cooldown. So you can stun those because there's usually like a cast leading up to the channel, or the channel just starts right away. But
Yeah.
channeled abilities you can also stun or whatever. So those are the three main cases I can think of, and I think that's always consistent now. I can't come up with any example that isn't consistent with that.
Yeah, but I think for me, that's the right direction, at least. Because that they can work with, then they just need to have clever placement of mobs throughout the dungeon, and they can probably make it kind of doable, right?
Yeah, no, I think in general, like I've had more fun this season, even though I don't really like the dungeons that much. I have had more fun this season than many other seasons. So yeah, definitely like the general direction. I'm not. I think there are some quirks to this that they can work out, but yeah, I think in general it's good. And also, it also adds one other random layer of things, which is like most like of these type of random bolt abilities or whatever. If you have absolutely nothing up on a high key, you'll get one shot by it. But that also adds like slight skill check of like, okay, wait, we don't have any kick ready now. And so, first of all, maybe it can be like, oh, well, shit, we don't have a kick for like 9 seconds for some reason because everyone double kicked or whatever. Maybe we just need to let one cast go through or something here. And then you see like, oh yeah, it's on me. I'll pop a defensive and just soak it or whatever. Or you can have this other thing where, oh yeah, our kick is ready in like 2 seconds. I mean, if I just stun this one now, and then someone can kick next or whatever. Like you get this sort of whole mini game of playing around with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it will see. We'll see after the season how it's perceived. But right now, I think at least what I see, people don't like it. But
Okay.
maybe that can turn around.
Yeah, they probably need to just make the packs bigger and see how much that changes people's perception. I might be wrong, but I know that damage meter is a lot of fun,
Yeah, I mean, I guess they can just add like a bunch of like small mobs to many packs that don't really do anything, right? I guess that would
Yeah, not a super big threat to the tank. Tank just pad the dungeon out a bit,
Yeah, that would be an option for sure. Okay, and then because now we actually front-loaded everything except for talking about the raid. Since we're already talking about M+, I think there's one more thing we should talk about in M+, which came out today as well. And it's that they're changing, or nerfing rather, the Challenger's Peril, which is the affix that makes it so that the death timer is tripled to 15 seconds.
Okay.
Did you see this nerf or no?
No.
Okay, so it's kind of interesting, I guess. So what they're doing is that they're not changing the thing. Like it still increases the death timer to 15 seconds. But whenever this affix is active, you now get 90 seconds extra on the timer.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so
explain.
exactly. So let's say if we talk about Mists of Tyrannosaith, right?
Yeah.
If you do it on a +6 key. Oh, wait, where does it win? Wait, is it 6? Oh, whatever the level is. If you do it on one level below wherever this affix is added, it will have 30-minute dungeon timer, and each death will cost you 5 seconds. But if you do miss a turn of scythe on one level higher so that you get Challenger's Peril, each death will cost you 15 seconds, but the dungeon timer will be 31.5 minutes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's easy enough.
So what it basically means is that the first 6 deaths are free with respect to the old timer. And then from there on, you have this, thing. So
That's a weird thing to change, no?
So yes, but they actually did provide some context to this change, or like some commentary on this change. And I think that this was what I thought or what I suspected why they made this change in the first place. So I'll just read the statement for you, and you can sort of see why they're doing this. So what they said was, we wish for Challenger's Peril to emphasize precise play and place a greater risk on players' decisions as they progress through higher keystone levels. With this goal in mind, we want to give players a bit more breathing room for these decisions by adding a bonus to Challenger's Peril while maintaining the penalty aspect of the affix. So what I think that means is that, and which I was kind of what I thought initially that they were sort of going for, which is that they basically want you to, like, they want to punish you for taking too many risks and rather say, you know what, just take it easy. The timer will be relatively easy, but just don't die, Because if you scale this up, like just to understand the idea, right? If we scale it to absurdum, right? And we say, well, the timer is now like 2 hours for every dungeon, but each death takes away 1 minute. Then obviously the meta becomes, okay, we're gonna be so fucking careful now. Like no one fucking die, And I think obviously they don't want to go to that extreme, but they want that sort of thing where they want the deaths to really feel bad, and they want to reward you for not dying. Which I can understand it in some sense. And I think that it's some form of response to this whole thing, this age-old debate kind of should it be hard to live or should it be hard to beat the timer? Because now you kind of get both worlds, right? Where you can say, well, we can go crazy, try to be really, really fast, or we can go kind of slow. And then we can maybe get something from that as well, because we didn't have as many deaths or whatever. So I think it's a noble goal.
I'm not liking the sound of this.
Yeah, no. Well, so I welcome this change. I think this is better than what it was before. But the way that it feels when you play keys now, it feels so bad when someone dies. It feels so bad. Like it's such a it's just bad. It feels bad.
I think this is a really boring way to go about solving this. I feel like there's so many things they could do that might just seem a bit more complicated up front, but like I feel like a really good situation would be if you feel like you can take risks, but having taken risks and them not having paid off makes you not want to take another risk. And I think that's a way more fun thing to try and enforce, because enforcing going slow is sort of the problem, like playing hardcore WoW. Hardcore WoW is probably fun for a lot of people, and hardcore games in general, but you're sort of getting incentivized to play it slow. I have a big issue with this in some games. Like I've tried to play Elden Scrolls, Elden Ring, whatever it's called, and Dark Souls and whatever, and I just come to the conclusion that if I play the boss real slow, I will kill it in way less pulls than me trying to play it fast,
Yeah.
Because I'm not good at these games, but at least for the first half of the bosses, like the easier ones, I presume, if I just go in and I hit it once and I roll out, that gets me quite far, And then you work it out from there. Meanwhile, rolling in and doing 2 hits and rolling out is sort of never worth, and I feel like this is the same thing. I would have liked to see them address some sort of scaling death penalty if they wanted to play with the time or the death penalty, because imagine if dying took away 2 seconds and then you just add 2 for every death. So like the first one is 2, the second one is 4, the third one is 6, or something like that. To me, would achieve the same thing, but in a way better way, where you feel like you can afford a full wipe. You're gonna lose like 28 seconds or whatever, like very comparable to the old system. But then each death after that becomes more and more punishing, to where you'd still play the dungeon fast paced and take some risks, because it's worth to take risks until they're not paying off anymore, you know?
Yeah.
This does not sound good to me. I do not want to be incentivized to go slower just to play the dungeon out, because that was the entire Dragonflight, and that also was really boring to me. Where they need to somehow hit the sweet spot with the timer and the health tuning of the dungeon, right? And I think it's more fun when you feel the timer, but feel the timer in a sense where it's not just about dying, like I presume it is now. Because 2 full wipes is a lot of time. Like
Yeah,
two and a
yeah,
half
like
minutes of the timer, like rip.
yeah. I mean, the thing is, like you can imagine, like if you just have a few deaths on a boss, you can just, if you just have randomly, like let's say you have 2 deaths that you could CR, and then 2 more people die on the end, and you just 3-man the last part of the boss, right? That already, like, just in terms of like the extra time it took, probably took you like, I don't know, a minute extra or something. And then you also get 1 minute extra penalty. Like it feels so bad, and it can snowball so quickly. So yeah, I really don't like that part. It just feels really bad. So I hope that they, uh, I
What
hope
do you
that
think
they.
about the scaling death penalty in comparison to the current solution?
I don't know. I would just want to go in the other direction. I just want them to say there's no more death penalty. 0. It's already a penalty to die. I don't think there needs to be a penalty. I don't know.
But then how do you solve some death skipping and spawn points, and do you think that's fine?
I mean, has there been any meta death skip since BFA?
I don't think so, but a contributing factor must be that you lose 25 seconds. There's been minor ones with like RP involved and respecs, I guess, indirectly. But losing 25 or up to 25 seconds is not worth. There's been some skips we've done with tanks dying, right? Pull to the side and die if you're not Nelf or whatever, and it's still easily worth it.
But like that would usually not matter in the 5-second system or even in the 15-second system, right? Just one person dying, right? That wouldn't really matter. And it's also a bit hard. Well, I guess they actually put pylons back, but I was going to say, like, in BFA also had pylons, which made this a bit easier to do. But yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like death skips would really be that big of a thing. I don't think that it would be very common anyway, so I don't know.
I think it would be if you couldn't get past mobs, which it sounds on you like maybe you can. But I mean, if there's no death penalty and you have like a warlock, you can do some real nice, real safe, play whatever you want in the dungeon, right?
I'm just trying to think about like an example of a recent dungeon where I feel like you would definitely have done a death skip if it didn't cost any time.
You could affect bloodlust timing quite a bit as well, right?
Affect bloodlust timing?
Yeah, like you could skip to a boss to get the perfect lust timing.
Yeah, but like
And not play like 2 or 3 packs in between.
yeah, but it still costs you time. Like doing the death skip and running back and forth and resting and stuff, it still costs some time, right? Like it's not
Yeah.
free. It doesn't mean that like it's not the same as everyone having stealth, right? Like if it, just to be clear, right? It's not the same thing.
But let's say you're in one of these 32 to 35 minute dungeons where like you have a hard time squeezing the lust, right? Don't you think getting a 4th valuable lust would be worth sacrificing 20 seconds or something?
Maybe,
Because
but
it wouldn't have to be much more.
But the problem honestly is that doing the death skip with the penalty, at least, I mean, that often stops you from doing the bloodlust, right? Because it decreases the leeway you have on the bloodlust.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I guess like if you, I mean,
That's true.
so I don't know. I mean, maybe yeah, if you didn't have the thing, because like that's something that happens now, which is really awkward. It's just like those dungeons where you want to squeeze the 4 lusts, you can't have anyone die. Like if even like 1 or 2 people die, they're out the key. That's it, right? Because
Yeah.
it's so much now.
That sucks.
Yeah.
But that's the way I've always thought about the death penalty, or like mainly. Like to me, it's been death, skip, and other shenanigans deterrence.
Yeah, I don't
Obviously
know.
some sort of punishment as well, but that's like the 5-second death penalty makes sense to me. Like some sort of death penalty makes sense to me. I'm just not sure how it's contributed, but I'm subjectively not a fan of any of the respecs or everything else than 1 tank, 1 healer, 3 DPS, same spec, same talents, runs the entire key is bad to me.
Yeah, I agree with that part for sure. I just like it's just when you look on your like warp deplete or whatever add-on, or you don't even need an add-on, like the little M plus GUI thing in the game. When you look there and you had a few deaths and you see like you lost 2.5 minutes because people randomly stray died throughout the dungeon,
Yeah.
that doesn't feel good, you know. That feels so bad.
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't know. But yeah. But actually, I would like to. Do you remember last week that I introduced a new segment to the podcast?
Yeah.
I would like to invoke it once again with breaking news. So I don't know if you've seen, but there's been some news out of China. Have you seen this?
No.
So there's some pretty crazy shit going on in China, let's say.
Okay.
So they also have some 20-year WoW celebration anniversary event. But it's a bit different. So what they have you seen it now?
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
So they have you can buy a bunch of stuff, but one thing you can buy is the Salatath navigation system voiceover. So if I'm understanding that correctly, it basically means you could have on like your GPS or Google Maps or whatever, you could have Salatath doing the navigation, which is a really, really weird thing, but I'm pretty sure that that's what it means. And you can buy the flying spectral tiger mount for $265.
Nice.
Which is very, very, very expensive if you compare to the other one, because this also doesn't do anything, I think.
But also very, very cheap compared to the spectral tiger.
Yeah, and this is also the flying spectral tiger, to be fair.
But I guess you can ride it on the ground.
Yeah, but yeah, there seems to be some more to it. I don't want to read this whole thing, but basically, I think apparently you could have already bought this apparently in some previous thing, and then if you have done that, you get some discount. So it's only 82 euros or 82 US dollars. So yeah,
Random sidetrack. Do you know how much spectral tiger TCG mount is worth on a random site I found?
no idea.
4.6 thousand euros.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah.
So I mean, if you if you play on the Chinese servers and you've been wanting and you've been liking the spectral tiger for a while, I feel like $265 is a fucking bargain, no?
No, but well, yeah, maybe, but this is not for retail. This is like for Burning Crusade Classic or something, or some. I think this is not for. I don't think it's for. It doesn't. Yeah, I don't think it's for retail.
Okay, they're going hard with the mounts. I think that's good.
Yeah, but
free
I mean,
money.
Yeah, but I think this money doesn't go to Blizzard, right? I think this goes to NetEase because NetEase announced it at least. So
What's NetEase? Is it some?
So like in China, like I think any company or anything that wants to publish anything like a game, you need a Chinese entity to be responsible or whatever, or own that or whatever.
Okay.
So that's why World of Warcraft got shut down in China for like a year, because Blizzard's contract with NetEase lapsed and they couldn't reach a deal, and then they came back with a deal after like a year or whatever, and then they WoW started again. So I don't know exactly how that works out, but it just said like NetEase celebrates 20 years of WoW with Chinese exclusive flying spectral tiger, but whatever.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I'm more interested in the Salatath navigation system voiceover and how that like how does that work? Like if you have like this old actual physical GPS system, can you download that voice pack or like how does that work? That's what I
Well,
want to
maybe
know.
they have some sort of centralized Google Maps sort of app in China. I have no clue.
Yeah, maybe like WeChat maps or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I guess now maybe it's a good time to move on to the raid because now we've been yapping for really long time about nothing to do with raiding. So maybe
Okay.
that's good.
Fair enough.
Right. So I think
Recap the week, I guess.
yeah. Yeah. I guess do you want to start with like how's your? I guess to start. Yeah. Did you? I guess you didn't reclear, right?
Yeah. So we extended. So we've had 4 raids on Queen Anthrax since last time we spoke. Um, I'm not exactly sure where we were. Let me check roughly what. Okay, so it looks like we started the week with P2 progression. Yeah, we were playing like the first platform getting to the second. And we've slowly progressed, and I think yesterday was the first time we started getting to P3 to some extent. I think we touched P3 on Thursday, like literally touched it, like super sloppily, 1 or 2 times. And I think on Sunday, which was yesterday, we got a few P3 pulls in. And today, we started off super well today. I think our first 4 or 5 pulls was in P3. And I think we reached it twice after that, or 3 times. So now we're progressing the last part of the fight. I think we're pretty much at the second portal, the second set of bombs. We haven't gotten through. A lot of hiccups with people accidentally picking up the bombs or people assigned to the second set being dead. So yeah, it's pretty much at that point after Royal Condemnation 1 and sort of at the portal / bomb / ring, whatever you look at point. How about you?
Yeah, so obviously we came into the week having done 1.5 raid, if I remember correctly. So we were still, I think we had reached the intermission shield and broken it with like bloodlust once or something like that going into this week. And obviously we raided only 3 times. And we today on our Monday raid we reached P3 a few times, 2 times I think, but never with everyone live or anything. Just all like some people left, but we did manage to get to the last phase, if that makes sense. But we didn't do anything. We always wiped immediately to the first spawn of the ads in P3. So, but I guess we actually aren't done for the week because we're raiding tomorrow again on Tuesday.
Classic borrowing raids from the future, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. So basically what ended up happening is that I think basically like just over a week from now, apparently, I don't know the insights into this, but apparently some shit's going down because we're going to have some extremely scuffed setups. There's like multiple people who are away and stuff. So we're not going to be able to, like, we wouldn't be able to do a first kill queen. There would be no way. So basically what we're doing is we're moving raids from the future, if that makes sense, moving it back so that we can kill it hopefully before that becomes a problem. Which ended up meaning that we moved to this reset, we moved to Extra Tuesday, so it will be our 4th raid this week, will be tomorrow. And then we also moved to Thursday of next reset, which ends up meaning that we're going to raid Sunday through Thursday, basically. So it's 5 days in a row with raids for us, which is kind of weird for a guild that usually raids 3 days a week.
Yeah, but on that note, though, it'd be very surprising if it didn't die before Sunday. Right?
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's hard to say. My hope would be that it would die like on Thursday or something. That would be nice.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I actually think a kill for us tomorrow it's not likely, but it's possible. I'd give it like a 30% chance the boss dies tomorrow. Because the DPS is so high now that like the point we're at, the second set of portals, is actually the last part of any real mechanic we're doing in the fight.
I don't think you. Oh.
Because after Royal Condemnation, so basically you have the portals, which we're on now, the second portals. You run about and do them. Then you're gonna get another Royal Condemnation that you need to survive. And then you're getting a third condemnation and a tank hit or whatever. But then, as we discussed to some extent earlier, there's no way we're doing the last portals, like the last bombs. I don't think there's a scenario where either of our guilds will kill the boss while actually doing them. And if that is the case, it's surely that the boss is at like 1% HP. And having looked at some other kills from this reset, and thinking about vault increases and whatever, and the ICC buff, it might actually be possible to just hard commit boss and not even kill the ads. And if that's the case, I think the boss can die tomorrow. Or our next raid. But most likely I'm sticking to the Thursday, which I think was my predict.
Yeah. I think tomorrow seems. I mean, it's not impossible for sure, but I think tomorrow seems slightly spicy.
And not tomorrow, Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday. Sorry, yeah, Wednesday.
Yeah, well, you haven't done as much. I don't think you've played enough P3 to realize how short the difficult part of the fight is when we have a shorter fight and the Razor Wall first. Like, the Portal 3 set would easily be the most difficult, having, I don't even know what it is. You would have 4, 3, you'd have like 11 bombs or something stupid, 10 bombs to do or something. And that would be super difficult. But since there's no way we're doing that, at least playing it out afterwards. I think the second set of bombs is
like
is the
you
most
never
mechanic.
like, regardless of anything, like at this point, like even guilds that already killed it like a week ago, they don't play. Like no one is going past the second set of essences. No one is doing that.
Yeah, and judging from our progression, getting to the second set of bombs is really not that difficult. Like the first set of bombs is only 3 people doing. The first condemnation, you can just full stack your healing cooldowns and you will have personals and whatnot. Then you get the second portals, which is sort of twice as hard because there's twice as many bombs and twice as many people to heal. One more than twice as many, actually, but... And I presume that if you get there clean and you have your lust and everything is good, the boss will just start melting.
Yeah.
So maybe. I wouldn't bet on Wednesday, but I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I got slightly baited when you said tomorrow, because when you say Wednesday, of course, it means you have one other stack of the buff and like gear and stuff as well, which I didn't really consider into the thing. So yeah, maybe Wednesday, but probably I would probably say Thursday. And I'm gonna say I think for us it's gonna also be Thursday probably, since we actually have one more raid than you now. But we are quite far. We have done a lot fewer pulls than you guys have. So for context here, we've done 172 pulls, you've done 258 pulls, so we're like 90 pulls behind you or something.
Yeah, but I think you're only 1 day behind on the boss.
Yeah, I think so. We got a little bit. I think I looked. So you guys first saw P3 at 182 pulls. We saw it at 162 pulls. So I think we might be slightly slightly further ahead in the progress from where you were. So it will be very interesting, I guess, to see after tomorrow. Because then, if we are roughly catching up to you tomorrow, then it will be extremely exciting for Wednesday, Thursday, I guess, right? To see who can kill it first. Because we're all going to be raiding the same days. So tomorrow's basically our catch-up day to try to catch back up to you guys, because you've been raiding more, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, well, if we... Considering you've gotten to the... I think your guild is supposed to be slightly better, right? You raid less and you had a better world rank. And you got to the last boss with fewer raid days, like 2 fewer days. I guess with 2 fewer days. But on the boss, we've been on the same track. I maybe it's not good for podcast listeners, but I linked you our last 2 days of progression. And I think it's worth to note, I forgot to say, but we played without one raider today. Someone couldn't make it. And we had a very kind and well-performing guy from another guild that played with us on his alt evoker. So that for sure hindered the progression to some extent, but I don't think he did anything. I think he did a great job, so I don't think he slowed it down any more than DPS and maybe morale, I guess, you know. Like, you're very aware that you're not going to kill the boss when you've lost a key player.
Yeah, we actually have a similar situation. I think tomorrow our Shadow Priest is not available, so we're going to play a mage.
Isn't the Shadow Priest your raid leader?
Yes, but actually on this fight, it's been mostly our guildmaster, who's a demon hunter, who's been doing most of the raid leading, actually. So I don't think it matters that much, actually, because he hasn't really been doing much. I don't know if he's even calling anything on this fight, actually. So I think it doesn't actually matter as much on this boss. But generally, yeah, I think he's kind of a raid leader, yeah. But yeah, that'll be definitely interesting to see. But I think we can say this, that on the next installment of the podcast, we will both have killed Queen unless something has gone very wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a nice way to think about it. It's gonna feel good to be out of Queen Ansrek jail.
Yeah, but like, how do you? I mean, I kind of like the fight. Do you like the fight, or?
Yeah, I really like the fight. I've heard a lot of people not liking the fight, especially melees.
I mean, there are some things. I mean, surely like the web blades are worse for melee, right? Because there's so much less space and shit. But I feel like those aren't that. Like, if people just move relatively well, then they kind of feel like they work out, you know. But if people are just like, especially when the earlier pulls, when people sporadically just run around like crazy and there's no sync and people don't think where they stand, then the web blades are horrible for melee. Like, it's just so bad. But other than that, like in P1, I don't think there's anything really for melee. I mean, you have the waves that go through the boss, but like they're very easy to see.
I think the lines have been the biggest culprit for us, at least.
Yeah.
People dying to, and especially melee, since it's harder for them.
Yeah.
And I want to give a big shout out. Another shout out. I just want to flame a bit on Frost DKs. How the fuck are they allowed to live the lines with nothing? How is that a thing?
Do they not die from the line?
No, they don't die. If they're top, they don't die. They have like more health or more DR or both. I don't know. They can live a line. It's quite barely.
That has
but
to be with a defensive, or?
No. They just stand in it.
That's actually crazy, though.
Like, you would live, I would live with a defensive. But they just eat it, and sometimes they live. If they're topped. It's like a cheat death, but no cooldown. Play DK.
Yeah, that's pretty OP. Yeah, we only have the one Frost DK.
Also don't get knocked and everything. Yeah. If you're a melee, you really want to play Frost DK on this fight for all the reasons. Yeah,
I can imagine. Yeah,
But
so
I'm quite happy with the fight all in all. I think this is probably the best end boss in recent memory for me.
yeah, I'm trying to think. I feel like P1 I'm fine with. I kind of like it. I think they could have done something maybe to make the web blades slightly more even between range and melee. I don't know how you would do that, but I think maybe there would have been something to do there. I think one big thing, which is just sort of by design of how the fight works, you want to play the boss you want to play it relatively close to the edge of the platform, but for the perspective of the web blades, you absolutely don't want to play close to the edge. You want to play as close to the middle as possible, right?
Yeah.
So if they could have made it in some way such that you wouldn't want to go all the way out with the boss, such that there was just infinite space out, if that makes sense, to the side or something to dodge, that would help a lot, I think.
They could also just hard codes. I don't know how many web lines you spawn, but let's say you spawn 4, like 4 stars of them or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Because they have a center point. They could just make it so if there's 5, 3 of them are always on ranged. They could just minimize the amount of lines in melee indirectly as well.
Yeah.
It is a lot easier to dodge in range, and I also feel like, because I think the part we have most deaths on is the one with around the triple knock up. I don't know what the mechanic is called. Because you get the triple knock up, and then obviously there's waves, and then there's lines, and then there's liquefy. So you're basically in a position where you need to be topped and probably have a defensive and dodge a bunch of stuff. And with the liquefy, you also have to bait the pool, which makes the melee positioning even worse because now you don't even have the option of running away from the boss to the center of the room, kinda. Like I guess some of you could, but there's a reason melee go to the edge there as well, right? Because you want to bait the pool so it grows in the correct way.
Yeah.
But that part has been most of our deaths, like those lines and predominantly melee. And that's for sure the toughest overlap. Have you guys had the same trend?
I don't know actually. I'm not sure. I think we have just like I think ours are maybe more uniformly spread. Maybe it would turn out not to be true if I actually look this up. But I feel like we quite often have random deaths in the beginning as well too.
We have quite a bit of random deaths, a lot more the later into the evening. Like our last hour today was real bad. Like we didn't get out of P1 for like 45 minutes or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And contrast that with the first 5 pulls all being in P3. I think morale took a hit, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's also this bug that came this week with the patch with the desyncs, which is extreme. Like, it's good at least that it's in phase 1. It would be absolutely infuriating if that happened like in phase 3, right? That would be crazy.
But there's been desyncs of the mechanics of the fight. There's been a lot of input lag for no apparent reason. Just been disconnects, like consistent disconnects in the beginning of the fight. I don't know what's been happening, but it's been like I haven't played on servers that felt this bad ever. I don't think. Like 20 people seemingly having a 10% chance of having like noticeable performance issues, and even disconnecting is so bad.
Yeah, it's been really bad, and I think this was the kind of tone death thing from the start.
I forgot my point with that third overlap. So for us, that's been the biggest problem, and I think there's so many things that stacks against the melee. I mentioned they sort of have to run to the edge. They get a lot of web blades, right? You sort of need to be somewhat focused on your general survivability as well. But I think the blobs probably poses quite an inconvenience in comparison to ranged, because obviously you get knocked towards the boss. So once everyone's been knocked, the whole raid is standing under the boss. What I do, which I think I can confidently say, I have not died here in the fight ever because lines are kind of free as ranged. But I can run into, like, towards the first waves when they're as small as they can be. Then I run towards the second pop and dodge those waves, and then I run in between the third set. So I'm always running towards the waves. And I can clear each pop when I can clear all waves from one pop every time they spawn. And I just do that over and over and over. And then the line spawns. And I'm sort of I'm not in the center of the room, but I'm kind of center in the room, and I can just place myself for the bait. And there's no real failure point there as long as you're allowing some sort of downtime to the DPS, HPS, whatever you're doing, you know?
Yeah. I haven't really found the waves to be a big thing. Like I don't think I died many times at all to wave. So I don't know.
I think waves indirectly force people into a bit more awkward
Yeah.
positions.
I think that definitely can happen, but no, I think the waves are exactly the same every time, right? There's something random about them, given that you put things in the same place, right? I don't think there's anything random to them.
I don't know how it's decided on the exact angle they go out, but yeah, they're placed in the same way and there's the same amount of waves. There shouldn't be any big variance on the pattern.
Because I feel like yeah, like it's hard to say, like, but when I play the fight, I feel like I know where the wave is going to be all the time now.
Okay.
So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't feel too bad. I feel like, yeah. So yeah, P1 pretty good, I guess. P2, I mean, there's some toxic things I think in P2. Like I don't know, the grip in thing. There's a lot of gripping in. I don't really know how I feel about that. That feels a bit toxic to melee, but it's probably not great for ranged either.
I don't know. I play Evoker.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very different to progress an end boss like this on my Evoker rather than Firak on my Priest. Or even worse, Rastaget on my Priest. Like, so that's one part that makes me really biased, because I don't think, besides DKs, I don't think you can have an easier time than being a Dracthyr at least. Like the knocks are non-issue, the knockout, everything's real comfy, you know. Like when I get knocked up, when I trigger one of the pops, just hit space and you just glide safely towards where you're going, you know. Like you take advantage of the knockups and pullbacks and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's a very different story because, yeah, movement is not a mechanic for an Evoker, which is super busted. Like it's so much easier to play. It's so much easier to progress as an Evoker than Priest. It's not even the same game.
Yeah, I think Evoker probably is like the same that like DPS Warrior had it like on Rastagat, where you could just charge every time on the knockback and it didn't do anything for you, you know.
Yeah, and I become kind of bad at the game as well. Like it does not matter for throughput or survival or anything, but I just become unaware to the knocks, because if I stand in a circle when it goes off, you know, it doesn't matter. Hit space, I'm fine. Like everything, you don't really get punished. I forget about the grip in P2 all the time because I have no, besides me standing in the roughly correct position to bait and to drop the web, I don't need to know when it's gonna grip me. I just hit space.
Yeah, because
Like it's
that's the thing where I think that it's too overly toxic to melee, because obviously you can, for example, if you play Evoker Warrior or a Dracthyr Warrior, or through other means, there are ways that you can, you know, stay somewhere in melee, keep hitting it, and you know, deal with knock, right? So like I can charge, or I can leap, or I can intervene, or whatever, right? Or someone can shadow step, or whatever have you, right? You can do a bunch of stuff.
mm-hmm.
But the thing that I think that makes it so unfair, or not, now maybe now I'm a bit exaggerating, but like that, what makes it unfair is that because you drop the silk under you, it makes it so that melee can't be in melee, because then everyone's gonna die from the silk on the ground.
Yeah.
So what I have, and for me it's even worse, because I don't know if you guys do this also, but I'm the one who forces the platform trigger in our guild, such that the second platform, my side, the melee side, gets the pull first. So I need to save my leap to leap past everyone and do the trigger, if that makes sense.
We have a warrior that does that as well. I didn't know there was a reason to it.
Yeah,
for it?
so the reason is that the first, like the side that has a person on the second platform first get the first rest on that platform. So that's why
Okay.
the warriors are doing this. But that means
Yeah, but
obviously,
I always time spiral there to give my warrior leap.
yeah, you can do that. We could maybe do that. I don't know if we use it or something else. Maybe we even have it. I haven't really thought about it. I just always saved my leap. But I can't use leap, for example, for that reason. But the thing is that even if you could, you need to be extremely careful with where you're standing, because otherwise you're gonna, screw up the whole area in melee. So what I do on the second platform, which is the only one I really stay in on the very first one, which is also where I pop all my cooldowns on those small ads and the shield ad. It's extremely awkward because I have to, first of all, I have to also spell reflect and stand in the line because that does damage back to the mob. So I have to do that, and then like half a second after that or whatever, then the grip actually happens, and then I have to be on the very, very, very far outer edge in my blade storm to immune the grip, but still leave it on the side, because if I'm in any closer, then I get screwed. And I also have to be still close enough to the mobs where my blade storm still kills it, because I'm also the one killing all the small mobs, right? Because they need to die, otherwise the tank dies. So it's just like really finicky and awkward. And then I just see like range people like an evoker just standing there. Oh yeah, pressing space, not even doing anything. Doesn't even matter where they stand almost, right?
Yeah,
It's just like you just stand on the correct side of the platform. Like I have to pixel stack on the edge if I want to do something like that. So that seems a bit unnecessarily punishing to melee, I think.
Or unnecessarily not punishing to an evoker.
Yeah, that could also be a way to say it.
Like I'm not a fan where there's such a big because it would be very easy for me as an evoker to be frustrated at other people, failing in the fight, but it's not that difficult to realize that I am not playing the fight in the same way, So I'm sort of surprised we haven't had more evokers or Dractors. I feel like no one has swapped, and people usually swap for, like a lot of people went gnome and whatnot,
Yeah.
But at least priest evoker is probably going to be the new goblin, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I guess warrior don't have much need. Like you have several ways to break knocks.
Yeah, I mean you have charge, intervene, and leap, right? So
yeah, you have good movement as long as you're in range of a boss. So
yeah, I think if anything, if you wanted to go evoker, it would be more likely because of the like the CC thing. But I think first of all, I think they nerfed it, and also, of course, as we discussed earlier, like that type of CC that that Dractyr gives is way worse now in M+ anyway. So it's not really big value anyway.
Have you guys had any evokers or any Dractyr swap?
I don't know. I haven't heard anyone mention it, but I don't know actually. No idea. I wouldn't think so. I haven't heard anyone say anything.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, they're ugly.
Yeah.
I guess that's the main reason not to play it. But I don't know if I think the non-evoker Dractyrs can stay in their human form all the time, which is something I'd really love them to give evokers the option to.
Does that look like normal human, or how does that look?
Yeah, it's like it's a human model. I think it's the human model. It might be human female and blood elf male.
Okay.
But it's basically human with some unnecessary scales on it. The same way demon hunters are night elf or something.
Yeah. Okay. Oh. Yeah.
But yeah, looking close to a kill. I guess we'll recap on the next occasion.
Yeah, I think we'll like recap the whole. I think we can go through more like detail the whole fight, what we think about everything and stuff like that once we have actually killed it. And thing. I was thinking we might go through the whole tier again. I was thinking maybe this is like a teaser, but I was thinking maybe we'll actually do some sort of visual content, which would still obviously be possible to just listen to, but I was
Okay.
thinking maybe we should even do a tier list of the raid. And just like do all the bosses and stuff, like these
this fucking tier list meta, man.
yeah, super like clickbaity and stuff. Competitive casuals doing a tier list of the raid, because it would be fun to just recap the raid, right, and talk about the bosses in hindsight, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess the only thing, since I still haven't actually played Nexus Princess and Silken Court, maybe we should wait with that a week or two until I've like re-cleared with them as well, just so I've played the bosses.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can talk about that. I wanted to mention another random thing. I saw that we are still quite far ahead of you guys in terms of eye level. We are 0.9 eye level ahead of you. And
can you look at our eye level from yesterday?
no, maybe not super easily with the view I have up now.
I can check it because we had like a 615 player in the raid today.
Oh, okay. Then that might be the reason why it's such a big difference.
Yeah, I'll check. Give me 10 seconds. We'll see.
Yeah.
Because you can see it in logs, right?
I see you have an evoker with 620 eye level. That's probably a big difference then. That probably is almost... Not all of it probably, but that's probably...
What eye level do you see?
630.6 I see.
Okay. Let me scroll down. Boom. Oh yeah, I can't see a summary either. But we should be quite a bit higher than that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you had one person who's like basically, let's say, 11 eye level
There we
below
go.
average, right?
31.2. 631.2 we had.
Yeah, so then
yesterday.
we're only 0.3 ahead of you. So that makes more sense actually.
Yeah, I still think you're ahead on the BOEs. I still have 0 BOEs, so I'm
Yeah, I mean, I have all three, so yeah.
quite a bit.
Yeah. To be fair, also, even though we're ahead by this margin as well, we also have our highest eye level player is actually benched, so that actually puts it down because the other warrior has the highest eye level in the guild.
What eye level do you have?
632.3 or something.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm in the lower end with 631. And I think we have 3 or 4 people that's almost 634.
Yeah, we only have one person 634. We have the mage that we have is 634. It's the highest one we have.
Okay.
There's also another thing that I saw that I wanted to ask you about. So when we spoke last week, we compared the comps that we're going to play.
Yeah.
And interestingly, if I'm not mistaken, you have backtracked on the thought of going Blood Decay. You are playing Prot Paladin still.
Oh yeah.
What happened with that?
We never played Blood Decay. We didn't even try it, I don't think. So basically, we ended up swapping me to the other side in P2 to get another grip. Because there was basically some movement issue with the tanks. Maybe you can fill me in here a bit, but do you have red side, blue side? Is that what you call the different sides?
No, we call them either left or right or melee and range side. So I don't know the colors for you.
Okay, we are playing on the side that's closest to where you are at the end of intermission. Because you're standing on one of the sides already in P2.
What? You can you run left or right when you're from facing the boss after the intermission to get to that side?
I run back.
What?
Maybe back left, but back.
Then you're starting the boss in a completely different position from us.
Okay.
Because we end the intermission right in between them, and then you can run left or right. If that makes sense. But I think the way to differentiate it, there's one side, which also again for us calls the range side or right side, which is the side that spawned those ads hanging from the ceiling. That's only on one side. That's the only difference between the sides, actually, I think.
Yeah, I'm I'm a slacking healer, so I have no clue which side that is.
You don't even, but then you're probably not on that side. Otherwise, you would probably see it's the same ads that are in P3. They hang down from the ceiling like those big spiders. You would
What are
probably
they
have seen
called?
those.
Yeah, probably. What are
Yeah.
they called?
I don't know. I think they're called the same thing as they are in the last phase. I don't know what they're called, but I'm not on that side either. It's you usually have all your ranged on that side.
Okay. Then let's assume we're on the same side, since we also has a warrior that leaps up to connect to the boss, and we get a grip.
Yeah, then you're definitely on the melee side, yeah, or on the left side for us, yeah.
Okay. So, basically, we have a Prot Pally Guardian, and one side, or the Guardian at least, needs help with the movement, because he has the option of trying to charge to break the knock, but then he has to move the ads up, and it becomes an uptime issue, and I guess it's a bit more risky as well. So for consistency, we just needed to have 2 evokers with our Guardian. So we tried that first before swapping to a Blood DK. And that's basically why we're where we are. I'm not completely sure why we're playing the Paladin. I think it's quite good in P3 for all the tank hits, and it's also quite good for freedoms, I guess, in P1. And we're already lacking freedom since we have a lot of evokers and priests.
I mean, you don't play Ret Paladin, right? We play Ret Paladin, so it's a bit different for us.
Yeah, no, we play Holy Paladin, Prot Paladin, and as far as I know, the people that aren't getting breaking out in P1 is double DPS evoker and priest, and maybe sometimes one other person, but I'm not sure. So I think that's why we're playing the Paladin instead of the Blood DK. Because if we were playing Blood DK, we would have had the Blood DK on the side you are playing, and I'm playing.
Yeah, so that's the funny thing, because that is what everyone does, it seems like. Is that they have the Blood DK like that, and then they have the other tank on the other side, the Guardian. They play that comp.
Yeah.
But we don't. We have our Guardian also on the same side that we are both on.
Okay. Do you have 2 evokers on that side?
No. Only one.
Okay. Do you know which, if not both, but do you know which set your Guardian Druid is not getting any rescues?
I know he's getting the rescue on the set, the first set on the second platform, like when we have all the small ads and shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one that he says is the most important.
Yeah, it's because first of all, I guess that's the only like real damage check in phase 2, at least on that side. And it's also the only damage check where you don't, because like the ads generally share HP across the sides, but not, there are some ads that don't do it on that platform. Basically, I think the shield plus then the other whatever that other far spawning ad that doesn't share HP on the other side, because it's the same time where those hanging ads from the ceiling are on the other side.
Okay.
And so there you have a bit of a DPS check. So you really want, since you also have all of your melee there, you really want, when you just get up, you really want to be stationary on that grip, if that makes sense, right? Because you want all your melee to be able to just sog as hard as they can. And especially since the tank will actually die if you don't kill those small ads relatively quickly, because they actually do a crazy stack on the tank, right? And so at least I would say it would be very surprised if your Fury Warrior isn't popping there. So it's kind of bad, like if your Fury Warrior is popping to try to kill all the small ads and I guess the big ads as well, but mostly the small ads. And your tank just got knocked away or ran away or whatever, right? That would be kind of bad. So that's definitely why you want to have that sort of the rescue there.
Okay.
But yeah, obviously it would probably have made more sense. I don't know why we didn't do that, but it probably would have made more sense for us to have the DK there. But we just don't want to change it now.
Oh, okay. It just randomly shows like this.
I think so. And then there was some talking today. I think our rogue was saying like everyone else is doing it the other way around than we do. The only guild that's doing the same as us now is Honestly. But the thing is that they also trigger the rest in the other order. They give their ranged group has rest first instead.
Oh, okay.
So actually, there's pretty much no one playing it like we do, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, I think. Wait, do you trigger the first rest as well, or is that just decided? Like the first platform's first
no,
rest.
you can't do anything. You get knocked off to the platform, right? So there's nothing you can
Yeah.
do. It's only the second platform where you can do this.
Okay. Yeah, because I was playing the other side up until I don't know when it was, or if it was yesterday or the day before, maybe on Thursday, I guess. On Thursday I swapped sides, and from my perspective, it doesn't really matter. The timings are a bit different, right? Since there's different rest timings, and that's where my healing revolves around.
Yeah.
But all in all, I think it's been worth it. I'm doing the rescue on the first platform, so maybe we could have just not had that and reduced. I mean, we've had some deaths to rescues on both platforms. I think input lag was a part of it as well, with all the lag, especially not from my rescues. But we had some clip with other evoker rescuing, and he landed. Like the evoker did not get knocked, but the tank did.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not really that difficult to do the rescue, but once you're committing to it, you don't have. I don't know if it's worth it to grip on the first one if it's any chance of failing it. Because I guess you can't really fail a charge if you've committed to charging, right? Or have you ever died to the knock?
I don't know if yeah, probably sometime. Charge you can kind of. I don't know if you can die if you commit to the charge. Probably not. I don't know. But the things you don't really, you never really charge it. It's very sus. And because again, as I said before, you can't really. You would need to stand a little bit further in, I think. Otherwise, it's a big risk. I think you couldn't charge. Like if you stood on the very far edge, and that's the only place you want to drop it. So I always run. I never. If you look on other VODs and Warriors, no one is doing the charge on the edge thing.
Okay.
So-
wait, you can ignore the rest with like Blade Storm or something.
Yes, but that
Okay.
you only do once. That's the first set. The same one that that we rescue. The first set on the second.
Yeah.
That's the only one that you do immune as warrior. The other ones you run out. I'm actually I think the only one. I haven't seen any other warrior do this, but I play intervene for this. Because like
sense.
you don't have a like the other choice you have is like second wind, which I think people have like get like 0.2% of the healing, so it's completely useless. And then the other option is you can play like bitter immunity, which is like a dispel on yourself, but which is pointless. You wouldn't use it for any dispel. So it's basically like a 20% heal on yourself on a 3-minute cooldown, which seems completely pointless when you have a 25% heal on a 25% cooldown, 25-second cooldown. So yeah, I just play intervene. I feel like it works pretty well. Have a lot of uses on the fight, so I usually use that. But I did die once today to intervening to the tank by accident during the rest. That was not good.
Yeah, that's a rookie mistake you only do once. Perfect.
Yeah, but it's one of those things like
Remind
you just see
yourself.
like a big clump of people, right? And you're like, I'll just intervene someone. It doesn't really matter. Oh wait, shit, it's the tank. That's not good.
Are you not intervening on the raid frame?
No. I'm just intervening like on the characters because it's just like a big clump of people. It doesn't matter exactly where I go. I just want to do it on someone.
Yeah,
And I just
that's not the right the right play to do it consistently.
yeah, but I don't know who I want to go on. Like people, I don't know where people are gonna stand or whatever. So it's a bit weird to try to because then I would have to look at where their character is and then look on the raid frame and stuff. So I don't know.
You could always intervene the evoker that would place you on the tank.
No, but not on that set. I don't do it. That set I do. The Blade Storm. It's every other set that I do the intervenes.
Oh, yeah.
When I actually run out, if that makes sense.
Okay. I will not. I think I failed the rescue 3 times, and I think one of them is legit. Like once I rescued too early, so we both got knocked off there, and then I died as well. I didn't hit space because I was like, "What the fuck did I do?" And then we both just flew off.
Yeah. So I want to get like a final prediction here.
Yeah.
Which of our guilds is gonna kill Queen Ansurak first?
Well, I guess we're both just gonna say our own guild. But I think my honest prediction, just looking, if I just do a simple comparison and look at our raid yesterday and your raid today, I think, because now we're gonna have the exact same, on Ansurak we're gonna have the exact same possibility. We will have, after tomorrow, we will have as many raids on the same amount of raids on the fight, right?
I don't know. Is that true?
I think that's true. I think we might have had more of a half day than you guys.
But wait, you had when we last time we spoke, you had 2.5 raids, and we had 1.25, or whatever you want to call it. But let's say call it a half. So let's say at that point you were 1 raid up from us, right?
Yeah.
And then since last time you've raided 4 times, and we raided 3 times. So you're two. You must be 2.25 raids more than us so far on the boss, which also
Yeah, maybe
aligns
we're
pretty
one
well with you
ahead.
doing 90 more pulls, right?
Yeah.
So after tomorrow, I think we're down like basically 5 hours or whatever, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Good question. Yeah, I think our guild will kill it first. I think our yesterday's raid was better than your raid today. And I don't think your pace seems to be measurably better than ours, in at least not to an extent where you would catch up. Because you had 2 P3 pulls today, and yesterday we had like 6 P3 pulls.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna bet on, like, I would biasedly bet on our guild, but I will also, in the most unbiased way I can, would bet that since we're ahead, we're gonna win.
Yeah, I think that's a fair analysis.
But you have to bet on yourself.
Yeah, I have to bet on myself for sure. I definitely
Yeah.
have to bet for myself. But I think I think we are more than, so I'll put it this way. I think since obviously after tomorrow we will be catching up like 1 day, and I think we are more than 1 day behind, if that makes sense. But I don't think we are 2 days and a quarter or whatever.
Yeah. I agree with that.
So I think that's like, I think we're like, yeah,
I
like
think
ever so
the most-
slightly. Yeah.
I don't think you will kill it. Like, you will still have less time on the boss by a couple of hours, I think. But
not much, I don't think.
it's probably gonna come down to P1 execution, because we had a harder time getting into P2 and P3 today than yesterday. But our P3 progression, like, we had P3 progression once we got there. But P1 is still easily like the most difficult phase, or the least consistent phase, I guess.
Yeah.
P2 being quite consistent, and P3 being the progress point, so obviously not consistent. But I mean, this is like the hard part about end bosses that I don't like, where it's almost like you get to a point when you've played enough of the fight that the boss can die, and then from that pull on, for every guild in the world that's in that situation, the boss can die any pull, and each pull increases the odds by like 1%, you know, or something like that.
Yeah.
And world rank, if you weigh in time spent in raid or how much you raided, is the only way you can sort of measure this. Pull count is a bit scam, I guess, because you can have different strategies to how much you talk and how much you just send it. But it is a bit boring that you can have a really good kill. That's not boring, but that you can also be a bit unfortunate, you know?
Yeah.
So it really can swing. Like, the better guild doesn't necessarily win, so to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like a little bit like what we spoke about on Queen, right? I think you guys had a pretty clean, like you killed Queen pretty quickly, or Court, sorry, not Queen, Queen's Court. Whereas we had like so many of those, like 5%, 7%, 3%
Yeah.
wives, right? Which,
And that
yeah,
you sort of lost a lot of your lead there. You lost like half a day to us or something. And I guess you could argue we played better on the day, but you could probably also argue that we just had a better pull a bit earlier.
yeah,
Like it is a bit wonky, and it can become so pivotal when it's on. For example, like Overnax for you guys, right? Like you clutched out Overnax, we did not. We should have killed Overnax. I think in another universe we just killed Overnax 2.5 hours before raid end, and we just
yeah. I mean, you
couldn't
had
get.
the 3%er like 4 hours before your raid ended or something, right?
Yeah, and I guess it likely evens out, but it is a bit frustrating when you feel like you're on the worst or like the bad side of it. But hopefully, since we had a bad Overnax and sort of bad Kuvesa or worse Kuvesa, we could with a strong court. Hopefully, we end strong. Kill Anstrike on Wednesday. You guys kill it on Sunday. Everything's restored.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my prediction. We kill it Wednesday, 30 minutes into raid. You guys kill it Sunday, extend.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on the Thursday train for my guess is that we're both gonna kill it on Thursday. Actually, I don't know who's gonna kill it first, actually, but I think we're both gonna kill it on Thursday. That's my prediction.
Yeah, but then I'm swapping to our guild the Wednesday. Because you had Wednesday before, just to swap it up. And I do sort of feel like it's a real possibility. So Wednesday for us,
Okay.
Thursday for you.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. We will revisit.
Did you have anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah. So I mean, I guess since we're over 2 hours into our podcast, I think it's about time that I figure out how to just end a podcast without asking a weird question first.
Like, how do you end a podcast?